Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo.
And today we're getting into chapter 80. And everyone has a plan until they get kneed in the face. Right, Dice?
Tell me about it, right? Hakuri got, he just had to be reminded that, this ain't a game, little boy.
Shit ain't sweet.
Yeah, shit ain't sweet. Yeah, it's still good to see him back, though. We see that earlier this chapter. We're now in level 2, underground level 2. So last chapter, we were underground level 1, which were the threat elimination grounds. And I'm guessing level 2, because we don't get like a confirmed title for the level like we got for the threat elimination grounds, right? So I'm wondering if there's more to this library, which we already know is 2 times as big as what the Sazanami had. And we know that basic teleportation and force field magic is basically like academic based. And so pretty much anybody can learn it and become proficient. And somehow, some way, for some reason, the Masumi keep getting gassed.
They've done nothing, really.
Yeah.
You brought up the library. It's academic based. Shiba might be a scholar. He was Kamunabi, we know that. He's the pinnacle of sorcery, according to Yura, which I think that's a reliable source of, to take his word for it. So Shiba might be a scholar that just knows all those books like the back of his hand. That's what makes him the pinnacle of sorcery. Not necessarily that he's like the complete number 1 strongest. Like, he may be number 1, but he may not be towering over everybody. I mean, Shiba may be that, but we just haven't seen anything. We barely seen him on panel.
Yeah, man, I'm with you, because I told you one of the things I really like about this chapter is that a lot of stuff just kind of happens and is just kind of dropped, but it's more like the implications of what we get in this chapter, which I'm starting to see is something that Hokuzono likes to do a lot, really. Is just be all like mundane about what we get revealed. Because we get a name for, and maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but we get a name for the Yoda looking dude, which is what we've been calling him, Ichiki. But yeah, regarding to what you said about Shiba, it starts to make sense why he's as regarded as he is. Because essentially the way I see it is that what's in this library is essentially like the fundamentals of sorcery. Somebody that just has been able to soak up all the knowledge in this library. So yeah, I wonder where does that put Azami, because we also get some Azami glaze later on. So it's interesting.
Kamunabi Yoda, I will still call him that. Kamunabi Yoda, he trained Azami and those guys. What like really stuck out to me, man, this like Kamunabi Alexa security dude is just like more and more sus to me. Kudo, they're so confident in this barrier. And it may be the case, right? That it's impenetrable. They're just on a floor right below where the action's happening. The Kamunabi heads are there. You would think that, they would like go down levels to be safer. But it could be hubris on their part that they're just overconfident that nothing can get through. Yura, and we'll get to that later, is just big brained. He's like, I don't need to get through it. I'll just put my forces on the inside. He's a little bit just sus to me. And I know people say there's no payoff for him to be the traitor, where it won't feel like fulfilling. I could still see it being him, but I more so want to talk about the Kamunabi traitor in general. The Kamunabi traitor doesn't necessarily have to have a strong connection to Kunishige. That's just more like the implication, which that very well could be the case. But I'm just saying the possibility that, the traitor may not be someone directly tied to Kunishige is also possible.
Yeah, the whole traitor thing to me is just, I really don't know what to think or even expect anymore, because what we also see in this chapter that I really enjoy is that, traitor aside, the Kamunabi are compromised already. And so, once again, we were talking about this before we started recording, but it's like the floodgates have been open to where like the traitor is just like another thing to worry about. And I don't think, at least right now, I agree with what you're saying, because I think what right now makes this traitor stand out compared to the others that we see this chapter, not necessarily traitors, but people that are blackmailed, right? Because the Hishaku has their families hostages, is like the one thing that separates the traitor from this is that he gave Kunishige. At least that's the way we see it so far. And I do wonder is that traitor also blackmailed? Like, is this all just a circle of blackmail, and that's how Yura has been able to pull the strings for so long, just blackmailing everybody? And I don't know if I would think that's the case. I think it would be more interesting if the traitor had something like a bone to pick, to put it lightly, right, with Kunishige, and there's a bit more motive behind what happened there. But I don't know. I really don't know what to expect, because I really like where this chapter is going in regards of like a trust no one type of feel, like I do love that, because it just, to me, it puts these characters in a really interesting position. And what's Yura's end game here? Like, we know now that he's pretty much like, he has a good plan. Like, we know now why he was willing, along with the Hishaku, to just walk into the headquarters. I think the Hishaku want to pin the Kamunabi underground. I don't know, man.
Maybe he's gonna try and let the Swordmaster have the Magasumi and trap them underground with him. That would be crazy. But I don't think the Swordmaster gets the Magasumi personally. But that's another story for another time. Going back to the traitor talk, Kamunabi Yoda, Kudo thinks that he probably joined the fight on upper level 1, right? If the traitor is someone that has ties to Kunishige, I think this chapter clears Kudo, who was, they say he had a part in Kunishige's hideout. I think Azami's cleared, and I don't think it's Shiba. The only person that it could really be, in my opinion, with ties to Kunishige would be Kamunabi Yoda. And the way it happens is, if we know Azami is fighting up top, they got the Hishaku Samurai up there, while the rest of the Kamunabi are underneath. We know the best fighter is Azami on the Kamunabi, aside from Hiyuki, because they say she's the strongest force or whatever. But Azami, in terms of the Kamunabi heads, is he says he's on another level. But we know Yoda is also strong. What if this is how they get rid of Azami? The Samurai, Hishaku, and Kamunabi Yoda, kill Azami.
Yeah, no, that would be a crazy development. Obviously, right? I'm a big fan of Azami. And that would make sense, because we know Ichiki, from what we last saw, we were led to believe that Ichiki smokes Azami. But for some reason, Kudo glazes Azami, mentions him as being on another level, but doesn't mention Ichiki right after bringing him up that he just joined the fight. So not sure if that's, worth kind of picking up on.
He needs to be jujitsu jumped. They know they're fighting a Hishaku member, and they have no doubts that Azami can handle. They've seen their work. They can tell that they're formidable. They're more than formidable. They're a challenge. And they're just oh yeah, Azami's just about to go listen to his drummers bang on the drums while he beats the piss out of them. But it's now we got Kamunabi Yoda, who is said to be going to join the fight. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, because if he is what you're saying, then this is it. This is the moment the veil is lifted.
Yeah, because who else is close to Kunishige? I mean, from as we know now, because any reveal can pop up next chapter, changes everything. But we don't know many people that have any kind of information on Kunishige to begin with. But we know the people that I particularly in my mind are clear. The only other one would be Kamunabi Yoda, or I guess the head of the Kamunabi.
Very well could be one of the Hishaku, the Kamunabi members we haven't really gotten into. We know there's that sus looking dude that threatened Chihiro. I mean, they're all kind of suspicious in their own way. If we're being honest,
I think he's too obvious, too on the nose. I think he's the one that tried to kill Chihiro or whatever. I think that was to throw people off, so people suspect him.
We haven't seen him.
Yeah, true. We don't know what's he up to.
And, we talked a bit about this. The Kamunabi, are whether we see it or not, whether it's off screen or not, as we progress through the chapter, we see that one of the instructors is one of the Kamunabis that's compromised in terms of being blackmailed. We see kind of the same thing we saw back in chapter 1. and the tree sorcery that we've seen a couple of times. So his, he offs himself, and that triggers the tree sorcery that just seems to go through multiple levels.
I wonder, we know like Toto, we don't know where her sorcery is, but we seen her like have like this thing with blood. I wonder if like, her sorcery allowed them to like get the pine sorcery into their bloodstream or something. You have to knock them out in order to not make the trees go off. And they know the tree sorcery by now, like all the Kamunabi heads. They're familiar with it. We don't ever hear them mention that, like, oh, that must be like an innate sorcery. I don't think they say that. I'd like to get more information on that tree sorcery, because it could just very well just be Hishaku's, but I think Hishaku is going to play a big part. Backstabs Yura, maybe he's on the side of the sword master or something. I mean, that's theories, but I would like to see more about that tree sorcery personally.
Yeah, no, and look, I was just gonna say that we're gonna see, like, the Kamunabi are gonna have to fight, whether we see it or not, whether it happens off screen, how much we get of it, I don't know, obviously. But one of the levels this tree sorcery goes through appears to be their conference room. So they're almost out there either dipping, like leaving, or they're fighting, right? And if Ichiki's joined the fight and he's not, it's not what you're saying that he's the traitor, then most likely these guys are fighting. But regarding to what you said about the tree sorcery, so we find out in this chapter, like we talked about already, is that the Kamunabi have their own manuals of these fundamentals of sorcery, and its teleportation and force field magic. I wonder, considering that every time we've seen the Hishaku teleport, it's looked the same, whether it be Yura, Hatshaku, Toto, or whatever. It's always looked kind of like like them going in flames, up in flames. And now with the tree sorcery, I believe we saw Yura use the tree sorcery back in the Rakuzaichi, correct? And so I wonder if it's part of their fundamentals.
But I think this chapter also kind of like confirms it can be remote activated or activated on a trigger. So I think it could have just been a setup to where maybe he just like remote activated it. Maybe the other Hishaku members can like trigger it to like, go off. That's why like there's a lot of questions on it. But or it could just be like, as you said, that they all can use it. Maybe they share sorcery. But we have never seen like any of them use like the origami when Hirohiko had it. But we didn't really see many Hishaku members at that point anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and like, if we're being honest, the tree sorcery, if there is one Hishaku that we had to attribute it to, it would be Hatshaku, right? We see that he's the one kind of crossing out the names of the people he has blackmailed. And so in regards to how these, how this tree sorcery is triggered from within the victim, it almost certainly has to be, or the way I would see it right now is like specific triggers, right? So in chapter 1, I would think that Hatshaku believed that there was a chance that that guy like snitched on the Hishaku is what I'm trying to say. And so that was the trigger for that guy. With these people, I think for the guy that offed himself, that was the trigger. It was like, buddy, you're gonna off yourself if you want to save your daughter. And that was it. I think it's specific to the victim. But yeah, I would believe the sorcerer would have to have some sort of contact with them beforehand. It would be really OP if it's just like, not tree grows out of you, like.
Oh yeah, like it's just like contract based.
Yeah. So I think you might be onto something with Toto. Toto might be, and we've talked a bit about her kind of being, what is it, kind of underrated in terms of how useful she is to the Hishaku, because we don't see her fight. We only see her kind of just bail out Hirohiko. Yura keeps her around for a reason, right? And it cannot just, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is just like Hirohiko's bailout, or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised to see her do something.
Kind of played upon her dying in that cart when they first appear, like in that Kaguri in her chapter chasing Chihiro and them with Iori. Like, what if she just has like with the blood thing, she's just kind of like not immortal, but like semi-immortal. She's like logistical for Hishaku. Let's talk about my new wife of Kagurabachi though. Nothing else in this chapter matters, but this lovely woman with the glasses, the bitchy look, and the sword. I don't care. She could be the traitor. She's my favorite character. She's my goat. I don't know her name. That's my goat.
I don't know, man. That kind of looks like Ro.
Well, Ro with a wig is hot. I'll say it. And we know Ro is in his 20s, so it's not sus.
So you're okay with her being one of the blackmailed Kamunabi?
In fact, I hope it is, just cause. Made me like her more. Nah.
What happened if she fights Sumi?
Sorry, Sumi.
Just like that, huh?
So sue me. Yeah, you can sue me, but like she's the one. But Sumi, Sumi and Hiyuki are great too. But interesting though, and on that same page, we do see the return of Hagiwara. Interesting. It looks like he's using his like magnetism power, like metal fillings, essentially, to fill in Ikuto's mask. But we know Ikuto perished in the fight with Sojo, and Hagiwara also lost his legs apparently. So he's probably walking around like going tink 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 with his little iron legs. Poor little tink tink.
Man, that whole panel was just like, we need answers, right? Because what is he walking on? We know he's not in a wheelchair. He's, like I said, he's carrying around his dead friend, it looks like.
Yeah, the mask.
And we know their abilities. Yeah, the mask, right? How much, what's to it, right? Like, but we know their powers are compatible because his is magnetism, and we know Dead Homie was, what is it, like iron? Like it was all based of like, turning his body into iron. And so I wonder if how that plays into, dude be ready for battle, because he, like you said, he didn't have legs and his friend was dead, and now they're both ready to fight. Or at least him using his strength. I don't know, man. It's something's going on there. So yeah, I'd love to see what exactly it is and whether he's one of the blackmailed. I think that's a layer to, like I said, this whole chapter adds is like, we don't know which of these guys. Yeah, we don't know which of these guys we can trust. And on top of that one panel of the guys we're talking about, when we see mostly or what could be just all new members or people we haven't really seen before. I brought this up to you. What are the chances that dude in the right corner or to the far right is actually from the anti-Sojo squad, is Kazane from the anti-Sojo squad as well? Because we see 2 or 1.5 members of the anti-Sojo squad or anti-Cloud Gouger squad.
That's nasty work. Call him 1.5.
And this, kind of sus dude, his hair does look different, but it is also kind of covering his eyes and half of his face isn't on panel. Like, any chance that could be like, that guy, that obviously had a bone to pick with the enchanted blades is
what's interesting to me on that panel is
the Hishaku.
Why are those hands are fucking huge around the little short homie at the top, but. We do see that big ass dude behind him. What is that? His left hand? His hands are, that would. His arms would be like grabbing him at a weird angle. I don't know what the fuck that is. But the hair behind the big homie looks like like Toto's hair, kind of.
Kinda, yeah. Imagine she kills him off. Just backstabs him.
Yeah, just like no diffs him.
That would be funny.
We see my future wife in the panel as well. We find out, like, to your point, we can't trust anybody. Any of these people could be blackmailed by Yura. We don't know. It'll be interesting to see how, like, the groups play out, as well with Hakuri just roaming. He don't know where he's at. He's just roaming around. He has to find an ally.
Homie is lost.
By himself. He's just not built for, like, the long... the overusage. Like, he's someone that should be support. Like, we know, like, he can handle himself, but if he overdoes it, fucked.
What are you talking about? He's one of the core fighters too.
Oh yeah, the core fighters. He caught a knee to the face really good.
He
needs to like team up with somebody, and it has to be somebody within the barrier.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, you giving Hakuri a lot of credit, when honestly, all the credit should go to the GOAT, the one who toughened him up with a decade of bottomless love. Yeah, bro, the GOAT Soya, right? just full on abuse.
There's probably some like people who have an older brother who'll listen to this, and they'll be like, "He's like my older brother for real."
It's just so funny, bro.
Yeah, but like we see it. But to your point, though, Soya was like really prepared him for a rough for having to be durable as shit. He is durable as hell. He's just like, man, these dudes are doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Soya isn't fodder, and these, the two soldiers who apparently for 5 years trained in the intensive physical fortification program of the Kamunabi. Yeah, you don't think that would hold a candle to Soya. And a motivated Soya, just abusing his just beating the brakes off his little brother.
Yeah.
Just look at his face, bro.
Like Hakuri, that dude, he goes through it, but like everything he went through just makes him like a GOAT now.
True.
What is it? Suffering builds character. Yeah, suffering builds character. Hakuri, now we can put Hakuri there instead of Yuji. And I mean, I think like Hokuzono, a lot of times, or at least I feel, he elevates characters or puts their like powers in perspective in this like fashion. Like we get these two guys with the swords. We know they're at least formidable. Like they have like they're trained. They're not like just thugs on the street. Essentially, they're above that. So like they're formidable in the terms of like normal sorcerers. And Hakuri just deals with them with one blow. Like, so we know Hakuri has the ability to like handle these people. But what happens when he meets one of the leaders with their elite troop, and one of them, like Hagiwara, what if Hagiwara has turned now? How does he deal with Hagiwara? Like, I think that's going to be Hakuri's fight. I think he's going to have to fight one of those three.
Ooh, that would be nice. It's going to be your girl. That's who he's fighting.
Rest in peace, Hakuri.
You're evil for that.
I'm just playing. But yeah, man, I mean, this chapter also, like I mentioned it earlier, but clears Kudo. I feel like Kudo is very like personable, like he's like soft spoken. I think that like that's who he is essentially. I know you still question him, but if this kind of chapter shows that he died in a sense with his like little mouth guard thing bloodied up falling next to Hakuri, that doesn't necessarily mean he died, but I think that's kind of what it's playing on, and I think that is possible.
But yeah, I don't know, man. None of the Kamunabi are in the clear except for maybe Azami and Shiba, who basically isn't really Kamunabi. We just know Yura's really playing 4D chess at this point and has been for a while, it seems like. One, I think there's more than one, like we talked about. There's the Traitor, but I also wouldn't be surprised to know that there's somebody else within the Kamunabi, whether it's because they're blackmailed or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if among the main top Kamunabi, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not just the Traitor. And so though I wouldn't see why Kudo would let go of Hakuri if he's part of the plan in terms of for the Hishaku. I don't see why he would depart with Hakuri, but also I could see what happened as like the perfect cover up for him to go back and meet up with the Hishaku if he has to for some reason. So honestly, just nobody's in the clear until we have the evidence. For me, nobody's in the clear. To me, there can be more than one traitor, each one with their own agenda or motivation for why they're doing it. And yeah, it is weird how that panel would really imply he's dead, and then Hakuri just goes like, oh, he's over there. So I don't know, man. I really like how Hokuzono's kind of cooking everything up.
I took like what Hakuri was saying is more like, thinking he has like fighting for his life.
True.
With Kudo, what that mouth do? Why's he got that thing over his mouth?
Relax.
One thing I thought that was like, and maybe it's because we're the Hishaku Hideout, I was like, good for the Hishaku releasing his daughter. He, like it's still they're dirty as hell, but at least they released his daughter.
They kept their word.
Yeah, like if anything, they do what they say.
You think there's anything to that? Some type of binding vow type of mechanic to the system or whatever?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Let's not. Let's not.
Well, so we do get the confirmation that Hishaku is not underground. He's not in level 1. We thought originally it was all 7 Hishaku, remember? Because the other 3 were at the hotel. I'm interested to see, like, if there's another Hishaku member down there. Like one we haven't met yet.
I would think so. Not that, it really makes much of a difference in terms of, wider aspects of the story. But I don't know why the samurai dude would be sent alone. I would think there has to be, it would be a good chance to introduce, yet another Hishaku, whether it be the female we have yet to meet. So I don't know.
I mean, really, after that, we get to see his storehouse usage. The limitations on the storehouse, these are my 3 possibilities. Maybe it's a mixture of all 3. Some smaller storage space, even though, like, it's technically like an infinite void, essentially, right? Maybe he can only carry so much, like, just because of the limitations or him overdoing it for so long. It's, like, limited in space now. Maybe limited number of uses per day, which I think that was always kind of a limitation for him. For over usage anyway, but now that number might have like dramatically decreased. You know what I mean? Can't spam it as much as he was in the Rakuzaichi. And then the last thing, which would be the biggest story like development, would be like the neural network when he crossed paths with it or like swapped it out with an ISO sort of thing. Maybe it unregistered like Chihiro, Samura, like the heavy spirit energy signatures that he had registered, something like that. So he could no longer teleport Chihiro to him. Because if he could teleport Chihiro or Samura, he could technically, even if it's Samura wouldn't kill Hakuri. I don't think he would. Samura just like teleports Samura, like when Yura pops up in front of him. Now Yura has to fight Samura. You know what I mean? Like he has the best Pokemon, but so I could see like Hokuzono wanting to like take that card away from him in this particular arc.
To me, that it would make sense for that to happen, whether it's like somehow like the Kamunabi, because we know he was under treatment by the Kamunabi. Whether that was, maybe once again, if there's something going on, whether that was intentional from the Kamunabi, though that might not even be possible. But yeah, I think it would make sense for one of those drawbacks to be that he lost access to some of the registered items. It would be kind of the type of inconvenience you would see for this arc to keep playing out, right? For things to not be so easy to be resolved. Just right at the right moment, that could be a really significant turn of events. Where Hakuri could lean on that for something he thinks he's going to be able to pull off, and same with Chihiro, and that's not the case. I honestly, right now, I have like more questions and theories and more things to look forward to than questions answered. I love just how much was really, dropped on us this chapter, and like I say, I love Hokuzono's way of doing it just so subtly. It's like really relevant information that is just dropped because for these people, this is the world they live in, right? This is casual information being just talked about, right? But for us, like it's, suddenly like any little tidbit, any name drop, anything is kind of, a building block for us to keep putting the pieces together for what we still don't know about this world, about the power system, the characters. So yeah, I really like this chapter, man. I've liked these last 2 chapters since cutting away from Chihiro and Samura. And I don't know if these 2 plot points, let's call it, will intersect. Like things at Kamunabi headquarters might not turn out well because Chihiro isn't there. And it would be fun to kind of see that and see how Chihiro and Hakuri regroup, right? But I don't know. Bro,
and the truth is, Hiyuki is for sure there's
She
no
gotta
way
pull
they
up,
don't have
right?
Hiyuki.
That's it's good that you.
Like she's probably chilling outside the door of the
Interesting.
Magatsumi.
I don't know.
You know, like, and I think I don't know if Shiba can teleport in the barrier. I don't know.
Yeah, where the fuck is Shiba, bro?
Even if he ain't the traitor, that motherfucker is betraying the trust. You know,
They betrayed
kids.
us.
Like we need to see him. He need to pull up. Like I know there's people who defend him and all that. I get it. I mean, a lot of times we're just memeing because he is such a pivotal like obstacle for the Hishaku. We need at least some kind of information as to where he is, because if the Hishaku's like they're putting a lot of emphasis on these two places of attack, taking out multiple Hishaku members or like basically ruining their plans in both of the places of interest we're talking about. They invested a lot into that attack, and it's showing. So like stopping them would definitely hinder the Hishaku. There's been no hindering I guess Samura like playing that card, but that was also in Yura's that was a backup plan for Yura. So he's like aware that Samura could have like hindered their like progress a bit. That was all within the plan though. But stopping them at both, the hotel and here would definitely that would ruffle Yura's feathers.
I don't know, man. I'd have to Yura ruffled. I'd have to see that. Like at this point, we're seeing that this guy really knows what he's doing. Right? At least that's what we're led to believe, right? So I don't know. I'd have to see him kind of be put on the back foot before I start even entertaining that possibility. Because so far it feels like he's taken anything and everything into consideration. Samura, Chihiro, and he knows just exactly the part that he wants everyone to play. Don't matter how minor you are. So we'll see, man. I'd like to see him again. I wonder if he's still around or if he just dipped.
Yeah, because remember that's what I was like talking about last week about the number of members and where they are like on a little panel. Doesn't necessarily mean that Yura and Hishaku went inside. I was saying the other two non-Hishaku members that got killed by Azami, like that, so that automatically eliminated two out of the 7 for not being Hishaku. Which I was like, what if Yura and Hishaku just dipped? Now, it would be fire if Yura pulls up to one of the sword bearers locations and Shiba's there and they have just 2 sorcerers going full all out 1v1ing. I would live for that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna find out where Shiba is soon. There's just no way Hogazono has him like lingering in the sidelines without, having any role for him. Even if there's a reason for him to be off panel, the fact that we still have it, like I would be more worried if Shiba was mentioned, like, oh, Shiba's off somewhere, like he can't come. Like I would be like, for real? But the fact that he hasn't been mentioned like gives me a bit of hope that he's pulling up anytime now, or that by the time that he does get like brought up, I would think he's doing something important. But if he's just like written off for like convenience, I don't know. We'll see, right? I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I think Shiba was mentioned like 3 chapters ago, or like where he was, but they don't say like specifically, like
That's what I'm saying, because I think we got a general idea, because I do know he was mentioned a couple of chapters ago. But and my memory's bad, but if I don't recall what he's doing, it cannot be important. Because, Kamunabi HQ is being assaulted right now. Like, they're being invaded. So I know he was mentioned, but it didn't sound like he was really off doing anything.
And Yoda is the one, interesting enough, it's the Kamunabi Yoda. He says, the Hishaku, I thought they were going to use Samura to hunt down the contracted sword bearers first. That's why I assigned Shiba and Hiyuki to security. That could mean maybe he put Shiba by one sword bearer and Hiyuki with another sword bearer. And they're not inside the actual Kamunabi headquarters.
So that's okay. That's it. So like security is just so broad that now that we have a better idea of what's going on, we can kind of start putting those pieces together. Yeah, that actually does make sense. I would be led to believe that, yeah, he might be either protecting Yeah, I would think the sword bearers, because I think that even the old Kamunabi, like the top Kamunabi, they're stated to be some like old geezers. Um, but they can still fight, right? So if there's anybody that might need protecting, it might be the sword bearers. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think that'll really do it for the chapter, right? I mean, kind of went over everything, and we got Hakuri. One, I think Hakuri is slipping into the wrong mindset that always gets him in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's his chip on his shoulder, right? It's like,
I mean, any closing statements, Dice?
nah, man. Just honestly, really curious if we're kind of gonna stay here at the assault on Kamunabi HQ, or if we're cutting back to Chihiro and Samura. I honestly don't know what I prefer, because, well, I guess if my preference would be seeing Azami, right, and the samurai Hishaku, see what's going on there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that for a minute, right? I do like that the last time we saw Azami this chapter, I don't think we really mentioned it, so it's worth bringing it up. They went to hunt prey. They're not protecting the headquarters, they're hunting prey. And that's right before we get the reveal that, the Kamunabi have been compromised. So this might be a bit of a stalemate. But yeah, man, I love the action. We'll see exactly where we go from here. But yeah, shit's getting crazy for sure.
You say you're curious, but are you hot curious? All right.
Fuck out of here, Tiberius.
Yeah, all right. I'm getting
Fuck out my face, Tiberius.
But that'll do it for us. Make sure you like and subscribe. Appreciate all the support thus far. We're really enjoying the conversations in the comments section. So don't hesitate. Other than that, until next time, peace.
Peace.